Hello and welcome to another episode of television news videos. Now, in this episode, I will try and talk to you and give you some tips about the most important and difficult thing to actually teach, and that is news writing. Writing skills are very difficult to be taught. At the same time, we can master writing skills and we will be able to master, in that sense, the medium itself. Now, when you are dealing with television and radio, the writing style is very, very different compared to what it is in newspapers. For example, newspapers, look at the nature of the newspaper. The newspaper, you can do back and forth, and you can read the newspaper. You can, if you do not understand, you can read the newspaper again, the story again, until you get the meaning right. In television, it is not so. In radio also, it is not so. It is not so because radio and television, there is no repeat telecast. There is no repeat telecast of the news. Of course, one can always argue that the news keeps coming again and again across different channels, okay, and it comes every hour, so there are a lot of repeats, so it's fine. But who has got the time to really wait for the next broadcast to get the information correctly, accurately? So once you actually say something on television, if the viewer does not understand, if the viewer does not pay attention, that information is lost. It will not come back. So it's very fleeting, it's transient. And therefore, it's very important that when you write and write to give information to people, that information has to be properly and very clearly and accurately given to the audience. If there is no accuracy, if there is no simplicity, if there is no clarity, then the moment something is said, and it is said only once, it is lost. That there is no way that the viewer can rewind, play the news again. It's going to be difficult. Okay? Of course, if you are watching the same news bulletin on YouTube, you can play it again. But if you're watching live television news, then, and many a time television is known, is famous, and is expected to deliver the news fastest. And therefore, you cannot really say, okay, people can watch it again. People can come next hour and watch the bulletin. No. When you write, you have to write clearly. You have to write in a very simple language. And there is a saying that on television, so many things are happening in the world. We need to be able to say everything that is happening in the world or is likely to happen in the world. All of that, okay, many complicated things in the world. All of this have to be explained within a vocabulary of 7,000 words. Because on an average, a normal viewer cannot be expected to know more than 7,000 words. So any words that you actually use, even if they are not familiar, let's say they know the meaning, but they are not familiar, which means it is not everyday use. What happens is when you are listening to the news, the mind stops for a while. It pauses. And then by the time you understand, okay, I know this word, I know its meaning. By the time you think the meaning of the word, the rest of the sentence would have passed by. And therefore, you should always use simple language on television, something that is everyday, something that feels like somebody is coming and talking to you. So the everyday use of language is very, very important, and that is what we call conversational writing. It has to be conversation. It should look and seem and feel like a conversation between two individuals. So in television, when you are writing, the first thing that you need to know is when you are writing the story, write the way it is told, write the way it is spoken, because people tend to speak more clearly, make more sense more quickly to another person than when they write. Writing is difficult. Writing and conveying the meaning is difficult. But when you speak to somebody, there are more chances. I'm not saying there will not be any miscommunication. Miscommunication is possible even when you're speaking. But people, when they talk simply, and therefore they are clearer for the listener to hear them and understand them. Okay, so first rule, first guideline, there are no rules of course, guideline. I think the first guideline of writing, news writing for television is write only in the manner it is spoken. Always tell your story. Now, people have a tendency to, when they come in front of television, you are aware as a news anchor, you are aware that millions of people are watching you. Thousands at least are watching you. Now, this awareness of thousands of people, the newsreader has a tendency, or even a reporter has a tendency to imagine thousands of people. When you imagine thousands of people who are listening to you, it is going to be very difficult for you to communicate in a simple manner, because suddenly you feel like you are on a stage. Once you go on to a stage, you start giving a speech. You are addressing an audience. And what happens when you are part of the audience? People in the audience tend to feel that this person is speaking for the person who is sitting next to me and not to me. Because he is addressing so many people at the same time, every person in the audience feels, no, this is for somebody else. But when you come on television, okay, look at me for example. If you were to see me on a television screen, your normal 51 centimeters, screen, or if you are going to see me even on a 30 inch screen, or a 34 inch screen, or in a 40 also. Now, if you were to look at a standard television set, which we used to think in terms of 51 centimeters, the size of the face will be the same as the person's face who's looking at us. So if you're looking at me in the box, the size of my face would be more or less like yours, like the size that is yours. So if you were to measure on television my size of my head, it will not be very different from your own when you measure it. Now, why is it so? It is so because we want to really give you a feeling that this person has come into your living room, and forget this frame that is within which I am speaking. I am looking straight at you, you are looking straight at me. And this is very, very important to say that, we are equal. Maybe sometimes some channels might, the camera might be a little low. Sometimes the camera may be a little high. But most of the time, television is looking straight, eye level. So when the camera is fixed at eye level, you and I become equal both in size, okay, and in conversation. I am speaking to you, I am talking to you, you are talking to me. Of course, in television, you cannot talk back to me. But even when you are listening, you should get a feeling that somebody is talking to you, a friend is talking to you. But if I start giving speech, ladies and gentlemen, then nobody is going to pay attention. Television is a medium of close-ups. You have to bring in intimacy. You should feel like there is a member in your family or come to your home and he is giving you some information. So, first thing, write the story the way it is spoken, the way it is told. Second, give up the proclamative podium, which means that podium on which you stand and imagine a huge audience and speak. Give that up. There is only you need to address you need to address one person at a time. Okay? Yeah. Then when you are writing, there is a tendency, we said that it should be simple and clear. If it has to be simple and clear, we cannot use confusing clauses. Okay? For example, I will use a sentence, okay, and I will read it. Now the sentence has no punctuations, no commas, nothing. So I will read this, the same sentence, same words, but I will change the meanings in the manner in which I read it. Okay? Now first one. India said the Pakistani government is guilty of human rights violations. India said the Pakistani government is guilty of human rights violations. Second way. India said Pakistan is guilty of human rights violations. India said Pakistan is guilty of human rights violations. Second way. India said Pakistan is guilty of human rights violations. Now, who is guilty of human rights violations? India or Pakistan? We won't be able to make out, and therefore we should not have ambiguity in when we write. Okay, and there should not be too many clauses and qualifiers also when we actually write, and they tend to confuse the viewer. First and foremost, the newsreader will be confused because somebody else is writing the copy, and it goes to the newsreader. The newsreader is playing on the teleprompter, and the newsreader does not know which part to actually emphasize, and it is live. And therefore, when you write, you say very clearly, India has accused Pakistan of violating human rights. Simple, straight, okay, no ambiguity. Okay. Now, there is another thing that we do to achieve clarity. We should avoid using inverted sentences. Avoid because of so and so, according to so and so, because of incessant rains, tomato prices have galloped. Don't say that. Because of this, this has happened. Because of this, this has happened. Don't say that. Simple, straight away, direct. Tomato prices shot up due to heavy rains. Tomato prices shot up due to heavy rains. Don't say due to heavy rains, tomato prices have, shot up. Okay. Now, never say, be straight, direct. Rama killed Ravana. Subject, verb, object. Rama killed Ravana. Don't say Ravana was killed by Rama. It is, you are trying to invert it. Always be direct. Subject, Rama, verb, killed Ravana, object. So SVO technique, as we call it. Okay, always use that. Then some people write to impress. Okay, some people write to impress, and the way they write is they always they try to overwhelm the audience, and they have a tendency to use big words. This is another problem with people. When I want to impress somebody, I'll start using big words. So, as I've already said, the vocabulary of an average person cannot be expected to be more than 7,000 words. So, anything you want to communicate within these 7,000 words only. Try not to go beyond these 7,000 words. So, the mind will snap or stop. So, never do something like that. Which means what? Always use simple words. Simple words. I'll give some examples from the book Andrew Boyd's Broadcast Journalism Techniques. In that book, he actually gives out some simple and complicated words, and he says how people tend to use the thesaurus and use more difficult words. Okay, and then he asks these questions. Now, what are these simple? It's not that some of these terms we might use in print media, we use them all the time, but when you're on television and especially news, you cannot use these words. Okay, the first word, obliterate. The simpler word is destroy. Now, complicated word, antagonistic to. Simple word, against. Third, complicated word, loquacious. Simple word, talkative. Difficult word, complicated word, veracity. Simple word, truthfulness. Difficult word, abrogate. Simple word, cancel. Difficult word, penury. Simple word, poverty. Difficult word, zenith. Simple word, peak. Isn't it easier to use simple words? So always make an effort to, whenever there's a big word, jargon, try to simplify it. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. If you're simple, then you get your idea across. If you're complicated, you get only the word across that nobody understands. Do you communicate to make people understand, or do you want to communicate to confuse people? Obviously in television news, you cannot communicate to confuse people, you have to clarify. Okay, so you need to be clear. Okay, now another way of writing clearly is to have only one or two units of meaning in a sentence. What is this unit of meaning in a sentence? Supposing I say in the same sentence, I was born in Bangalore, in Vijayapura, in Baswangudi, or and in 1966, let's say. Okay. Now there are so many units of information. I am Rakesh, I am Katarey, I was born in Bangalore, in Vijayapura, in 1966, in Baswangudi. Now just see how many things you are giving the people to remember in one sentence. Always in every sentence when you write news for television or for radio also, have one unit of meaning. I was born in Bangalore. Simple to remember. Then, where in Bangalore? I was born in Vijayapura. Where is Vijayapura? It's in Baswangudi. When were you born? 1966. Now each of these questions has only one answer. So one idea in a sentence, not one idea or maybe two ideas in a sentence. I was born in Bangalore in 1966. So it's easier to remember, yes, Bangalore and in 1966. It is easy to remember. But if I give my entire door address, nobody is going to remember. On television news, you cannot really give more than one or two units of meaning per sentence. Now coming to sentence, many people, if you really read, the newspapers, I read the Hindu. Okay, when I read the Hindu newspaper, they write long leads. Okay, long sentences. Sometimes the number of words are 100, sometimes 150, sometimes 70. So these are very long sentences. First and foremost, if you write such long sentences, in newspapers, yes, you are reading under the breath, so it is fine. When you write these sentences and give it to the newsreader will not be able to read so many words. He will run out of breath. So you need to have some sympathy for the newsreader and do not write too many words in a sentence. You should not write long sentences. But you may ask me, what is a long sentence? What is a short sentence? What do you mean by short sentence? What should the length of the sentence be? Who is going to determine whether it is long or short? I think one test is, the breathing. People should not stop to catch a breath. It's continuous sentence. The second test is what we call the Irving-Fang formula. Irving-Fang formula is a very interesting formula. When you write a sentence, you have to test that sentence. How do you test? You should measure the number of syllables in the sentence. What is a syllable? I'll give an example to explain so that you can remember. Okay. My name is Rakesh Katarey. My 1, name 2, is 2, Rakesh 2. Okay, 5. Katarey 3. Now, how many total syllables in the sentence? 8. Now, you should always, whenever you write a sentence, count the number of syllables Okay, you get a total. Then count the number of words in the sentence. I am Rakesh Katarey. My name is Rakesh Katarey. Okay, my name is Rakesh Katarey. Let's say 5. Okay, now total number of syllables were 8. Total number of words is 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. So when I write my name is Rakesh Katarey, everybody will understand. Got it? Because when you minus total number of words from total number of syllables, the score should not be more than 20. The score should not be more than 20. Now how is that? Total number of words in a total number of syllables, first total number of syllables minus total number of words should not be equal to, or should be equal to but not greater than 20. Should not be greater than 20. That is your Irving Fang formula. If you follow this formula and you test every sentence that you write within the total, without each sentence the Irving Fang value to exceed 20, if the score does not exceed 20, the sentence is correct. If the score is more than 20, 25, 30 and all, it means you have to go back and write the sentence again so that the score comes to 20 or less than 20. Now, there is another way of doing this. When the total number of syllables minus total number of words is greater than 20, you can even break the sentence into 2. Okay? You can make 2 sentences out of that one long sentence. So, I will say, my name is Rakesh Katarey. I was born in Bangalore. There are 2 sentences. It is easier to understand. So, first thing you do is, whenever you write a sentence, you test the sentence. Total number of syllables minus total number of words should not exceed 20. Let that be a thumb rule. Okay. Now, when you are writing, of course, they say they have, what we used to in newspapers and other print media, you say that you have another formula called Rudolph-Flesch formula. Okay, that is fewer number of words per sentence, fewer sentences per paragraph, and more number of paragraphs. That is your Rudolph-Flesch formula for easy writing. But this is easy listening. Okay, Irving Fang is easy listening formula. Now, when you write for television, words should always not repeat what is there on the screen. You cannot show an apple and say, this is a red apple. People can see it is red apple. People can see it is red. There is no need to say this is red apple. Instead you say, these apples have come from Kashmir. So, you are giving additional information about what people are watching on the screen. So on the screen, when you have a crate of apples, you say these apples are coming from Kashmir. Can you see that they have come from Kashmir? No. So you are adding information to the visual, so the visual itself is saying these are apples, but nobody knows where it came from. And the story is about Kashmiri apples, how the apple business in Kashmir has taken a beating. Okay, so you are saying these apples are from Kashmir. So the visual is only apples, but you are adding information. You are complementing what is already there on the visual. You are not repeating what is on the visuals. You cannot say this is a crate of apples. Doesn't work, because people can see it is a crate of apples. So whenever you write in television, you write to the visual. What is the likely visual, or what is the visual to which you are writing? Okay, and always add or complement the meaning to the that are contained in the visual. So words must complement pictures. Okay. Now there is also something that is very important. You need to always write. You should reduce techno speak, and this is what we have seen in Gulf War of 1991, particularly when the Allied forces attacked Iraq, particularly the US, and there was a lot of people on the ground who were killed because of Allied bombing. There were not only soldiers who were killed, there were a lot of civilians, a lot of property also was destroyed. So, and in the news they were trying to describe it as collateral damage. When you say collateral damage, it is techno speak. Okay, it does not convey any meaning of the number of people and property that has been lost. So words should reflect the right emotion. So when you write for television, don't say the death toll has risen to 200. Don't say COVID has claimed 200. The death toll in COVID is 200. You have to say over 200 or 200 people have died. Okay, due to COVID. Or you can say COVID has so far claimed 200 lives. So claiming somebody's lives died is much more human way. It reflects human loss more than just a statistic like death toll. The death toll is a very so it's very dehumanized. So always write in a language that is more human. Okay. Now you can always write contractions. In newspapers you are always told what is a contraction. When you say didn't, okay, that is a contraction. In newspapers you say did not. Okay, but in new television writing you can say didn't. Okay, so similarly you have aren't, don't. Okay, and a number of contractions there. Aren't, don't, they would, they'd, and who would. Instead of writing who would, you just say who, WHOU, and apostrophe WOU. Who would is 2 words. So you say who apostrophe D. Okay. So that is who'd. It makes me. So you can contract the words, make 2 words into 1, and that is acceptable in television writing. Okay. Now, so you have shouldn't, you have all kinds of contractions that are used in television journalism. They are not used in print journalism. Okay. Now, you can also say avoid. You can also avoid using the word that. He said that. Okay. You just say, instead of saying the Prime Minister said that, you say the Prime Minister says Pakistan is guilty. So it's always easy, and it is better that you avoid the word that. Okay. The Prime Minister said that Pakistan is guilty is wrong. The Prime Minister says Pakistan is guilty is right. Okay. Now, so avoid the word that as much as you can. Okay. And not only did we said one idea a sentence, or maximum 2 ideas, 2 units of meaning in a sentence. We said try to, when you write for television, try to write every sentence within 25 words. If it goes beyond 25 words, usually in television people will lose track of what you are trying to say. That does not mean you should write short sentences to give a staccato effect. What do you mean staccato effect? When you measure the sentences in terms of syllables, you should not have same number of syllables one after the other sentences. Okay. So let's say there are 20 syllables in the first sentence. One can accept that because it's a short sentence. Then the second sentence should not be another 20 syllables. The third sentence should not be another 20 syllables. When you have 20, it creates a staccato effect when you are reading the news. Okay, and therefore one can be 24, one can be 20, one can be 15. So they should be varied. If they are varied, then I think it will work better. Okay, now always write strong intros, always write very strong stand-uppers in the end, which is piece to the camera. Now these are some of the important things that you need to notice whenever you are writing news for television. Okay, now I will try and forward a television format, which is what we call the package, and we will try and know a little more of the package in the next episode. I will forward a sample of how the package is, but I will try also and explain to you what a package is. Now we are getting into the form of television news story. Okay, so that's all this time. Thank you very much.